Fucking finally. It looks like we may finally be getting some sort of an announcement from Reading and Leeds Festival about the lineup. Thank fuck really, because I've been desperate for them to give me something to make a bit of content on. So while we're sitting around nervously hoping it's not a repeat of 2018, let's get into who the headliners might be for this year's festival. Well, first of all, a bit of mandatory self-promotion. If you're watching this video, I reckon there's a good chance that you're interested in Reading and Leeds Festival. And if you do happen to be, you may want to consider clicking subscribe, because we're going to have lots of content all about it. I've got some really interesting things planned, I say so at least, once we have the actual lineup out. Just going to quickly add in, because I forgot to say it at the time recording, over the next few days I'm also going to do headliner predictions and rumours for the other stages at the festival, such as the Radio 1 stage, the Pit, and the Festival Republic stages. Going to try and get through all of them, but I don't think that's quite possible considering I only have about a week. But we're going to try and get a few of those done in the next few days. Okay, yeah, that's all out the way. I know you hate watching it, but as a YouTuber, you've got to do it. Now, some of the eagle-eyed viewers amongst you may have noticed I've already made this video, but yes, that was all the way back in September. And since then, we've had lots of big changes. While I think, as far as I know at least, everything I said at the time of that video was correct, we've had lots of big changes, and some of the bands and stuff I said in that video are no longer able to do the festival. With some examples being Green Day are in the USA, Billie Eilish is in Asia, Foles are in Russia, Haim are playing Latitude, Tame Impala are a festival exclusive at All Points East, Catfish and the Bottom are headlining a few smaller festivals throughout the UK. And since September, Liam Gallagher's been announced to headline several different festivals and Finsbury Park, so there's no chance anyway with common sense they'd book him to headline Reading and Leeds Festival. Ah, shit. So I probably missed a few there, but anyway, they're the main updates from the last video I made if you happen to watch that. So while everything I'm going to say here is all based on some legit information, we have some rumours and some of my own knowledge and understanding of bands and festival. Don't take any of this as concrete information, it's all subject to change, and who knows who Reading and Leeds could book. They've really surprised us in the past. So take it all with a pinch of salt, because I don't want you coming back here and commenting, complaining that you bought a ticket when I told you Rage Against the Machine were going to headline and they haven't. So yeah, when it comes to the Reading and Leeds Festival headliners, there's three main demographics that I think that they try to please with the headliners. Yes, there's a lot more genres and demographics at the festival, but the three main ones that it seems the headliners, or at least the high up bands on the lineup, are aimed at is rap and hip hop, indie rock, and then classic and hard rock. So we've got Liam Gallagher in for the indie fans, so that leaves us with a more classic rock / hard rock headliner and a rap headliner. So first of all, let's look at a rap headliner, because I think there's far fewer of them which I think are realistic, so it's a lot easier to look at who it may be. First of all, there's a lot of rumours like A$AP Rocky, Skepta, Tyler the Creator, but they're all headlining various other festivals in the UK, and with Liam Gallagher already being not at all an exclusive act, I don't think they're going to want to get other headliners that aren't exclusive to this festival in the UK. So I think it comes down to three main possible rap and hip hop headliners for the festival this year. First of all, I'm going to say Stormzy. Now, when I made that last video in September, he was the one I was the most confident on, and that's because he had just, well, I think at that point he hadn't actually released his new album, but that is out now, and he'd just come off the back of his big Glastonbury set. He's a really hot artist right now, and it'd be really good to have a British rap act headline the main stage compared to all the American ones we've had in the past, just for that good old patriotism. But since I made that last video, Stormzy's now announced a pretty big tour with a lot of dates in the UK, and it happens in early September. He's playing at shows in Leeds and he's playing shows in London. And surprisingly to me, a fair few of his shows in the UK haven't actually sold out yet, and the tickets have been sale for a good few months. So I think that makes him quite a risky booking for the festival when he's already selling loads of tickets for his tour and he hasn't even sold all of them yet. Perhaps that's links to why there was a delay. Perhaps they had some contract issue with Stormzy where he was like, you can't announce the lineup till I've sold these many of my own tickets to my own show, because that's probably his priority. Number 2 out of the possible rap headliners is Travis Scott, who we last saw at the festival in 2018 where he kinda co-headlined with Fall Out Boy. It depends who you ask or where you look whether it was officially a co-headline or whether it was just like a glammed up sub-headliner. But I think his growth since then with his solo stuff and with Jack Boys really justifies him at least having the closing set of a co-headline this year. He's a very big ticket seller, and Melvin Benn, who organises the festival, it says he's one of his favourite acts ever, because he likes the rap acts that really embody the rock and roll spirit, if you understand what I mean by that. And Travis Scott really is the definition of a rap act that can do that. Travis Scott is currently booked to perform at several US festivals and currently nothing at all in Europe. Now, Rolling Loud tweeted out because he's not coming here or something because he's busy. So maybe that does make him a bit less likely, because I think it'd be a very odd thing at a festival to tweet if it wasn't true. But that is an early summer festival compared to Reading and Leeds being quite a late summer festival. So perhaps he's coming here as a European exclusive late in August. Now, third and finally is Eminem. Despite most of his music being a bit meh since recovery really, he's still one of the biggest artists in the world, even if he wasn't as big as he used to be. And he's definitely a big ticket seller from what we saw last time he was at the festival. His days sold out ages before any of the other days at the festival, if I remember correctly. He does have a new album out, but there's no shows as of yet announced for him to do this summer, so you can view that as both making him more likely that he hasn't announced any shows yet, or you can view it as meaning he's not doing any shows this summer. I guess time will tell. Perhaps it is also a bit too soon to have Eminem back, because it was only 2017 when we last saw him. But if he is such a big ticket seller, maybe they can justify bringing him back so soon. There could be a couple of curveball rap headliners I haven't mentioned here, such as Drake or The Weeknd, which wouldn't entirely surprise me if they played at the festival. But when it comes to rap headliners at the festival, they seem to be, as Melvin Benn says, rap headliners with the rock and roll spirit, which for me, Drake and The Weeknd don't really have. They're more pop-orientated rap compared to rock-orientated rap. So let's get on to the possible rock headliners. Now, first of all, we have Rage Against the Machine following their surprise return at the end of last year. Now, these would be a massive booking for the festival, and it's apparently been leaked that they're playing at the festival. I'm going to play the clip now that comes from Radio 6.
In headline slots at big festivals, that is another. Rage Against the Machine, who are playing this year's Coachella Festival in California, and they've just announced more US shows as well. Are they going to play in the UK? Maybe a festival over here over August bank holiday weekend? Who knows? Maybe they've announced it by the time you hear this.
So as you see there, the radio presenter, it makes it sound like he's saying that they are there rather than he's speculating. Like, that's how it sounds. But if it's true, and if he's saying that and he does have insider knowledge, he either wasn't thinking or he's a bit of an idiot, because he could get in big trouble if he's leaking insider knowledge like that. Because, but if anyone's going to have good connections at the festival, I reckon it is BBC Radio. But apparently what we've been hearing about Rage Against the Machine in general is that they're only going to focus on the US this year and focus on Europe in 2021. And that's because they are a very political band and it's currently an election year in the US. So I've got a feeling they're going to want to do a lot of fuck Donald Trump style shows. But hey, I'm sure if Reading and Leeds threw enough money at them, they'll happily change their mind. I certainly could see Rage Against the Machine doing a one-off, well, I guess a two-off show that's sort of like a fuck Brexit, fuck Boris Johnson style show that would seem to fit their style of shows. Right, on to the next band, and this is the living definition of a Reading and Leeds festival band, and it is of course Biffy Clyro. Now they do have a new album out this year, despite having an album out last year, but that wasn't really a proper album, it was a movie soundtrack album. But anyway, they're also playing Big Weekend in the UK this year, and every other year they've played BBC's Big Weekend. They've also played Reading and Leeds. Perhaps there's a coincidence, perhaps there's something a bit more behind that. While Biffy Clyro is one of my favourite bands, I have to admit their stock has really fallen over the past few years, and they certainly wouldn't get people as excited as they would if they were headlining back in like early 2010s. But perhaps having this new album out, perhaps the festival's going to put faith in them. They're just going to revive all the hype around Biffy Clyro. I would love to see them, but it would be a very safe and a very bland booking by the festival, especially considering that they played there 2 other times within the past 6 or 7 years, I think. Right, next up we now have Bring Me The Horizon. Now Bring Me The Horizon seemed all set to headline the festival in 2019, following on from their 2018 Secret set, but it seems they turned the festival down in favour of doing their own festival show at All Points East, where they had a lot more creative and production control over the festival. But this is a band that has worked their way up the festival lineup year on year on year. They were a festival regular for quite some time, and it peaked at them subbing Metallica in 2015. And since then we've had their two biggest albums, That's the Spirit and Ammo, and I think that fully justifies the step up from sub-headlining to at the very least co-headlining. They are also having multiple EPs being released this year, and they're making global festival appearances all around the world, but nothing at all in the UK, not even a tour. In fact, we haven't even had a proper UK tour from their last album, Ammo, and that even got to #1 in the UK. So I feel like there must be a reason they're holding off doing a tour. Like, yeah, at first I thought the reason they're holding off doing an Ammo tour was because of All Points East, but now All Points East has happened, why can't they do a tour after that? It's been quite a while, and I think maybe they're waiting for Reading and Leeds because they want to focus on selling that out. And yes, before anyone says in the comments, there was the Ammo tour, but that wasn't really an Ammo tour. They had 2 singles from Ammo on the tour, so I don't know how they called it, whatever they called it. So it wasn't really a typical promotion of a new album tour. Now this one I think is rather unlikely, and that is My Chemical Romance. I do think they're unlikely, but the edgy 15-year-old within me is still clinging on to that last bit of hope, and it seems it's the same situation for a lot of people out there. They had their surprising return at the end of last year, which sent emo Twitter into a meltdown. I'm scared to even think what Tumblr was looking like around that time. My Chemical Romance have announced and sold out instantly 3 dates at Milton Keynes Bowl. Again, perhaps that was the reason for the delay, that they wanted to sell out their own shows before trying to sell tickets for the festival. And while My Chemical Romance isn't one of the biggest bands ever, they're certainly one of the hottest bands at the moment because of their really hyped up return. But it does seem they're not too keen on doing festivals, because apparently there was a big falling out behind the scenes to do with Coachella, and they're preferring to organise their own shows or do festivals where they're like really in charge of it and have all the creative control. It seems they're only going to be in Europe and that area in June and July, which makes them a bit less likely. Plus the fact that selling out 3 30,000 capacity shows and 2 festivals is a very big ask for any band, let alone a band that, like, yeah, they're big, but they're not absolutely a top tier band. I think selling out the 2 festivals on top of those shows would be a very big ask of them. Another very classic Reading and Leeds band up next, and that is Red Hot Chili Peppers. But again, being a very classic Reading and Leeds band means it suits the festival, but it is a bit of a bland and a safe booking. But John's return to the band seems to have really revived the hype around them, and perhaps that could justify them returning to the festival so soon, especially as they're meant to have a new album out soon-ish, and a lot of people think they wrote their best music while John was in the band. But again, with them, it seems they're only doing early summer festival dates, so that makes them less likely for Reading and Leeds. And a few Red Hot Chili Pepper fan news accounts have claimed that they have announced all their European tour dates, and that seems like that may be true, because they announced quite a few in a row and now there's been radio silence from them. Sorry if this is dragging, only 2 bands left, and up next we have Gorillaz. Now, Gorillaz are a very left field choice for Reading and Leeds Festival, but I think they could just about make it work. It looks like they're aiming for a big return this year off the back of their new song with Slow Tie and Slaves, and it looks like they've got a few other songs coming out. It looks like they may be teasing one with Tame Impala, so that'll be very exciting to see. And while Gorillaz are a big act, I don't think they're a big act in the minds of the typical Reading and Leeds festival goer. I think they appeal to a bit of a different audience, so maybe they'd be better off doing something like All Points East or their own festival again, perhaps. While it wouldn't surprise me entirely to see them at the festival, I do just think they're a bit too much of a curveball choice, and I think they'll probably choose someone who's a bit more of a safe Reading and Leeds act to book. But I think it would be kind of worth having them there just to see members of Blur and Oasis headline the same festival. Right, last but by no means least, we have Arctic Monkeys. Now, every year Twitter begs the Reading and Leeds account to announce the Arctic Monkeys, and every year for the past several years we've all been disappointed. While Arctic Monkeys are supposedly working on a new album, because there seems to be some photos of them at their recording studio, nothing is concrete yet. Again, perhaps the reason we've had this big delay is because Arctic Monkeys have some contract with the festival that means they get to announce their own shows and announce their return and announce the album before the festival can announce them as playing the festival. I don't think that's too likely, but if anyone has the power to make Reading and Leeds hold back up their lineup this long, I think Arctic Monkeys is an act that could do that. While I think they would be a great addition to the festival, I'm not going to put too much faith in them being there until we see a bit more of a concrete evidence that they are actually returning. Perhaps if this new album does come out in a bit, we'll see them there for 2021, fingers crossed, but we just don't know for now really. So overall, that's the 10 or so acts that I think are most likely for Reading and Leeds Festival. I feel like for sure that I've missed someone, so let me know down in the comments if you think there's someone else I haven't considered, and I'll reply to you and let you know what I think about the chances of them headlining this. Over the next week or so, as we wait for the announcement, I'll try and update the comment section while I'll add a comment to let you know if there's any news that rules out any of the bands that I've said, or if I don't say it there, I'll say it on Twitter. So consider following me at rockcycle with a _. Overall, I personally think most likely my guess will be Biffy Clyro and Bring Me the Horizon co-headlining along with Eminem. But honestly, I'm not that confident in it. I think the headliners, or at least one of them's in this list here somewhere, so I guess we'll have to look back in a few days and see if I got it right or wrong. I'd be particularly interested to see what you have to say and what your theories are about the festival, so let me know down in the comments below. As always, hope you enjoyed watching. Like, share, subscribe, the usual YouTube shit, and I'll see you in the next video.